months of your life will be opening junk mail over time. That's a lot of junk mail. We spend 1 year searching for misplaced objects. Some people, it's more than that. You know, where's my glasses? We spend 2 years of our lives trying to call people who aren't even in the line's business. 2 years of your life calling people when it's unanswered. In the 1960s, those who predicted the future advantages of technology felt that the biggest challenge to the future would be boredom. They believed that time-saving technologies would increase productivity, and they informed a U.S. Senate subcommittee that by 1985, some of you weren't even born then, but by 1985, people would work 22 hours a week, 27 weeks a year, would retire at 38. We look at those numbers and laugh. The average husband and wife unit is currently working 90 to 100 hours a week combined. Families are taking a heavy toll, not from boredom, but from the stresses of life that leave them exhausted. Anybody relate? Yeah. So how do you find peace in the middle of modern life? And those that came in, if you don't have a handout, there's some handouts here for the lesson today. If you want to grab one. First, let's define peace according to the Bible. Because most people don't define it according to the Bible. They define peace as the absence of tension or conflict. That's not true. That's why they're puzzled when the Arabs, they greet each other with salam. We have a pen, I think, is there something back there? Back there? Yeah, back there in the corner. I apologize. I got to do better. I had a pen sitting out. They greet each other with salam, while the Jewish shalom, both meaning peace. So they both greet each other with peace, and then they go on fighting. The ancient words for peace do not mean the absence of tension or conflict, but rather the tranquility of order. In other words, there may be chaos all around us, but a person with God's Spirit inside remains at peace because there is order in their life. Order. It's the tranquility of order. John 16:33. These things I have spoken unto you, that in me you might have peace, and in the world you shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. Jesus is saying that in me you shall have peace. As long as we're in Him, as long as we're walking with God, again, this is a fruit of the Spirit. If the Spirit is in you, guess what? This is one of the fruit that you have. In the midst of chaos, you can have order. Have you ever seen anybody that when everything is going haywire, everything is going nuts, they're as calm as a cucumber? Whatever that is. I've heard that term, but I don't know how calm a cucumber is. They're just as calm as can be. They're not rattled. They have order in the midst of chaos. And that's what true peace is. There are 3 applications of peace in the believer's life. 3 applications. First, there's peace with God. Peace with God. Listen, disobedience always brings a feeling of disorder to your life. Disobedience will always bring disorder to your life. Romans 5:1. Therefore, being justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. This kind of peace, I didn't put it on your paper, but you can write it beside there. This kind of peace is a sense of spiritual order. Spiritual order. Peace with God is spiritual order. Disobedience is opposite of that. Disobedience always brings a feeling of disorder to your life. If you want to bring order to your life a little bit, become obedient to the things of God. You will find a calming coming to your life. A peace with God. The second one is the peace of God. The first one was the peace with God. This is the peace of God. This one, difficulties can bring a feeling of disorder to your life if you look at them with the wrong perspective. Difficulties can bring a feeling of disorder to your life if you look at them with the wrong perspective. Philippians 4:6. Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known unto God, and the peace of God, which passes all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. This kind of peace is the sense of psychological order. The first one was spiritual order. This one is a psychological order. This is the peace of God. That midst of everything that's going on, that verse tells us in Philippians, is the peace of God, which passes all understanding, shall keep your hearts. That in the midst, while I am going through it, while everything is chaos, while everything's going to chaos, there is a peace of God that you can have, that in the midst of the storm. It's kind of the story, remember the story in the Bible where the disciples were on the boat and there was a storm and the boat's being tossed and they're all scared and afraid, and there's Jesus, he's taking a nap. You can literally take a nap in the middle of a storm because God's got it. Say, hey, I'm riding with God. God is on my side. And because he's with me, who can be against me? And in the midst of everything, you can literally have a peace of God in the midst of everything. Did you have something?
Yeah, I have a question about the verse. It says, be careful for nothing. Does that mean, is that another term for not to worry about anything?
Yeah. He asked about the term, be careful for nothing. In other words, you really don't have to worry about it. You really don't have to worry about it. Whatever happens, whatever is going on, guess what? I know God's got it. I know it's going to be okay. You know, when life happens, and that's why a person who walks in the Spirit of God, who lives with God, that when you go through it, people look at you, it's like, how are you not falling apart? Because I have a peace of God that's within me. When you get the bad report about health, when you get the bad report about something, that there's a peace within inside you that passes all understanding, that nobody else understands. How can you be so peaceful about this? And there's a peace of God that can get you there. Yeah, we still have to go through things in life, but I know that if I'm walking with God in the principles and precepts of God, that I'm going to be okay. You can have the peace of God. Number three, the peace on earth. Peace on earth. Differences with others can bring a feeling of disorder to your life if you look at them with the wrong perspective. Differences with others. Luke 2:24. Glory to God in the highest and peace on earth, good works toward men. This kind of peace is a sense of a relational. This is relational. So the first one we had spiritual order, then we had psychological order. This is a relational order. You can have peace within your relationships. And we're going to talk about that more about that in a minute. Because relationships are where we live our everyday lives. We need to talk about a person who was filled with the Spirit of God and how you should act with the fruit of the Spirit. Look at Proverbs 29 and 8. Fools start fights everywhere. Wise men try to keep the peace. You know somebody that's always trying to just stir up trouble? They're always just trying to stir up some type of trouble. Matthew 5:29, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. And because peace is not the absence of tension or conflict, but rather the tranquility of order, you will never achieve peace by one. You will never. You have something?
The first answer is that peace does not mean the absence of tension or conflict, but rather.
Where you at?
I missed that. It was the first one.
The top paragraph.
Oh,
I was trying to say.
okay, I'm sorry.
Tranquility and order.
Yeah, tranquility of order. Yeah, the first one is tranquility of order. The very first one on the first page. Sorry. Yep. So peace will never be achieved. And I don't know if I put these on your paper, but you could write these somewhere in the margin. Peace will never be achieved by first avoiding the problem. Avoiding the problem. You will never achieve peace by avoiding the problem. You ever have somebody that just avoids the problem? They don't like conflict. You ever have a manager do that, or a boss? That they don't like conflict, so they kind of avoid the problem? Unresolved conflict is like termites in your relationship. It will eventually bring the house down. Pretending the problem doesn't exist is not peacemaking, it's cowardice. Eventually, you got to deal with the problem. And guess what? Every relationship, if you've lived more than 5 minutes, you know, every relationship at some point is going to have problems. Every relationship is going to have disagreements. Every relationship is going to have conflict. And if you don't deal with it, it could be something dumb, something crazy. But you got to deal with it. You got to take care of it. It could be in a relationship, marriage, it could be friendships, it could be a workplace, it could be wherever. If the problem is not dealt with. In the military, we had what was called a sandpit. If you had problems, guess what? Go to the sandpit, put on boxing gloves. And you duked it out. Once you left the sandpit, it's over. You're done. You're done. But you dealt with it, you know. You got a lot of aggression now. I'm not saying go out and get boxing gloves for you and your spouse or whatever, and just duke it out. Sometimes you need to go like it. I'm not saying. But you cannot avoid the problems. Number two, you can't achieve peace by appeasing the problem. You can't, by appeasing the problem, you can't achieve peace by appeasing the problem. God doesn't expect you to be a doormat. Jesus never backed down from a legitimate issue. Peace at any price is not legitimate peace. Somebody said that when I swallow my feelings all the time, my stomach keeps score. There are some times that you have to compromise, but you cannot appease all the time. Sometimes you just got to deal with the problem. Sometimes you got to deal with the problem. We have hands. Can you give them handouts here? Just give it. So, by avoiding the problem, by appeasing the problem, you will not achieve peace. So the question is, how do I become a peacemaker? How do I become a peacemaker? And I put it on your paper. It's the letter P. Number one, you become a peacemaker by planning a peace conference. Plan a peace conference. The reason most world peace conferences don't work is the same reason many relationships don't work. Someone has to be willing to make the first move. Somebody has to be willing to make the first move to step out there and say, hey, we got a problem. You mad at me? What's going on? Did I say something to offend you? Did somebody's got to make, you got to plan a peace conference. The verse there, Matthew 5:23-24. So if you're about to place your gift on the altar and remember that someone is angry with you, leave your gift there in front of the altar, make peace with that person, then come back and offer your gift to God. Let's talk about prayer. If you got aught with your brother, it's hard for God to accept your gift until forgiveness is. That's what the verse said. You know what? And according to Scripture, the way I read, if you're a Christian, you should make the first step. To take the initiative in seeking peace, whether you've been offended or you're the offender. Well, they offended me. Okay. It's still my job to say, you know what? Apologize for whatever. Even though you didn't do anything wrong. Guess what? The onus is off of you and on the other person. You did your part. Whether they accept your apology or not is not your problem. That's between them and God. But you got to plan a peace conference. The longer you wait to resolve a relationship problem, the bigger it gets. Again, this is marriage. Let's just have a quick marriage seminar. A lot of you should have been here last week. We had a good class on it. But let's go to a little marriage seminar here. When problems come up, deal with it. It's like any problem in the life, anything that happens, I don't care what the problem is. If you don't deal with the small problems, they become big problems. It's like that little noise in your car. If you don't deal with it when it first starts, guess what? It's like, I'll just ignore it. I'll put electrical tape over the lights so I can look at it. I know somebody's done that. And just kind of ignore the light, because what happens? Before you know it, your engine seizes up, or something happens. You lose your transmission or something. Why? If you would have dealt with the problem when it was small, then it wouldn't have became big. And any relationship in your life, you have to deal with it when it's small. You have to deal with every insignificant thing. Just deal with it. I can tell when my wife is upset with me, which, it don't happen a lot. No, she gets, sometimes I do stupid stuff. We're human. I said last week, guess what? We marry human beings and they marry human beings. We talked about joy last week. Guess what? We're human. So yeah, what's bothering you? Deal with it. Plan a peace conference. Number E, letter E. Empathize with their feelings. Empathize with their feelings. The second reason most world peace conferences don't work is that no one is willing to look at the problem from the person's perspective. That's a big problem in our world today. Nobody wants to hear the other side. Matter of fact, a lot of times, a lot of people, if they find out that you're on the other side, say politically, they're done. Wait a minute. That's narrow-minded. Some people won't even read or watch any political news or anything that's from the other perspective. That's narrow-minded. When I read the news, I read all news. I try to read it from every perspective. Because guess what? I don't trust any of them. So if I read them all, I can kind of start piecing them together what really happened. Because if you read one source, you're not getting the truth. I don't care who it is. You're getting part of the truth, and then you get part of the truth over here. Eventually, you put a picture together and say, oh, this is what really happened. In relationships, you got to be willing to listen to the other person's perspective. 1 Peter 3:8. Finally, all of you should be of one mind, full of sympathy toward each other, loving one another with tender hearts and humble minds. The first thing you need to do is listen. We're all adults. You need to shut up and listen. Listen. Years ago, I went to a leadership seminar, and they explained that Sam Peake was his name. He explained that because a lot of times when people talk, you have a tendency to go ahead and talk because you already. But he had it to where everybody was holding a pencil on an eraser. You just had to sit there and hold a pencil. As long as you're holding the eraser, you got to keep your mouth shut. And only until you took your finger off the eraser that you can talk. But he was trying to train you that as long as you're sitting there listening to the other person talk, you can't talk. Let them talk. We have a problem with listening a lot of times. We have a problem. I'll admit it. There's sometimes people will talk and I already formed an opinion in my mind before they're done talking. And I'll say something and they'll say, wait, let me finish. Then when they finish, like, oh, that's not even close to what I thought. Shut up and listen. We have to listen. Listen to the other side. Listen to their opinion. Listen to their ideas. I read a story. There was an old couple. They were seeking divorce. And the older lady, she was partially deaf. She could barely hear. So the lawyer began to ask questions, and he asked the lady, he said, what grounds do you have? She said, well, I got 40 acres. He said, no. Do you have a grudge? Do you have a grudge? Yeah, I got a 2-car garage. Let me go try something. Does he beat you up? Yeah, he's always up first thing in the morning, before I am every morning. And the lawyer's like, what's the problem in your relationship? She said, well, he won't communicate with me. Hysteria. Guess what? She's not listening. She's not listening. He's probably communicating just like worded, but she's not listening. We need to learn to listen. We need to learn to. Guess what? When we deal with all of us, I tell you, all of us are part of ministry. We all have a ministry. Ministry is messy. In ministry, we deal with people. If we want to lead people to Christ, guess what? We got to deal with people. And I told you many times we need to love people. We need to be there for people. Ministry is outside these 4 walls. That's where real ministry begins. And that includes, we have to listen to people. We have to be willing to listen to people. And when someone is hurting you, it's on your paper here, please remember this. Hurt people hurt people. So write that again. Hurt people hurt people. Somebody is hurting you. You got to look beyond the hurt that you're receiving and ask the question, what hurting them that's causing them to hurt me. People that are hurting will hurt others. People that are really going through it. You ever been in the grocery store or Home Depot, wherever, and somebody is really upset, angry? They're just angry. We have it at our office, and when somebody comes in, I've trained the ladies up front that, hey, somebody comes in, they're really angry, and they start yelling, and we get them. I tell them, look, it's not you. It's not you. Listen to them. They're upset about something, and it's usually not what they're here for. There's something going on in their life that's really upsetting. We had one elderly gentleman who was irate. He was in his 80s. Just irate about something. Just coming in, stomping and storming and just cussing and yelling. And we just stand there and listen to him. My office isn't too far away, so I keep an eye out what's going on. And so I'll walk up there and I just kind of sit in the corner and just listen. Basically to protect the ladies. If something goes off, we're rumbling. But we just kind of listened to him. And finally, after he was done, I said, sir, what's going on? Come to find out his wife died 2 days later. And he didn't know how to handle it. She handled all the bills. She handled all the... And now he has to deal with stuff. And he was so frustrated and so angry, he didn't know what to do. He was hurting. So his response was to lash out at people because he didn't know what else to do. A lot of times when people are hurting you or doing things, it's because they're hurting. Because a normal person does not act that way. There's something going on. A lot of the issues, I've told you before, everything that's manifested in the flesh is because there's a spiritual problem. When somebody's acting out and somebody's really off the chain, there's something going on that's causing them to act that way. Because a normal person doesn't act that way. Hurting people hurt. We have to know that and understand that. Did you know that the key to intimacy is conflict? It's like, well, that's counterproductive. Guess what? If you never have any conflict, you always exist on the surface level. But when you deal with conflict in a positive way and resolve it, it creates greater understanding, it brings you closer and makes you stronger. Any couple that's been together for a while, you've had conflict. And conflict is not necessarily negative. It could be sickness conflict. It could be sickness. It could be financial. It could be whatever. But when you've gone through it, it makes you stronger. It makes you stronger. It brings you closer. That it's the same way with a group of people who are going through things like boot camp or going through whatever together. There's a bond that nobody else can understand. You have your group of friends that you have your inside jokes, you have your relationship that everybody on the outside don't even understand what you're doing. Because you've been together as a group of friends, you've been through some things together, you've seen something, and it draws you closer together. Conflict breeds intimacy. When you've been through it. Wife and I, in March, would be 34 years. We've been through some things. We've been through some things. We got married on March 14th. March 19th, I was gone for 6 months. Come back and pick her up, and we shove everything that we had into a 1986 Dodge K car. Yeah, look it up. It was a cheap old. Everything we owned fit inside that, and we drove from Pennsylvania to Louisiana. Didn't know nobody. Just us. Newly married. We didn't even have a honeymoon. Newly married. We barely knew each other. We're shoved in this little car driving across. We get to Cincinnati, and from Cincinnati, there's a stadium there, and the highways kind of split, and it was rush hour, and that Dodge Cape car blew the belt, and we broke down. Boom. Rush hour traffic. Sitting there. Brand new married, didn't know have a clue what we're doing. Didn't know anything about life. And we broke down, we're sitting there. Luckily, a telephone guy or somebody, I can't remember who it was, pulled up, put cones out, and we called a tow truck, and we went and we got the belt fixed, and we drove all the way to Louisiana. We get down there for our first duty station, and we're like, didn't have a thing to our name. We rented a little bitty apartment that could probably half of this platform. We bought a $20 coffee table on the side of the road. That was our coffee table and dining table. I found a $50 love seat that pulled out into a bed. That was our love seat in our bed. When we started, we had nothing. But you know what it did? It built a relationship. What we went through, it built a relationship. And through our marriage, the first 8 years, I saw her. I didn't hardly bear saw her because many times I get a phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, in 2 hours, I need you to be at the helipad. We're going. Where are we going? Can't tell you. How long? Can't tell you. She wouldn't know until I got there, and that was before cell phones. We had to do a click call. Hey, will you receive a click call from Panama? They say, hey, Luggett, I'm in Panama. I don't know when I'll be home. That was it. But you know what? It's supposed, and every one of you got stories like that. That conflict builds intimacy. It builds intimacy. When you deal with it in a positive way, it creates understanding. A, what do you got to do with A? A, on peace there, you got to attack the problem, not the person. Attack the problem, not the person. Proverbs 10:10, people who wink at wrong cause trouble, but a bold reproof promotes peace. What was that? Felt like something fell. Ephesians 4:15, instead, by speaking the truth in the spirit of love, we must grow up in every way to Christ who is the head. Anytime there's ongoing conflict, somebody's hiding something. When there's ongoing conflict, somebody's not doing their part. The truth shall set you free. Listen, you're never persuasive when you're abrasive. You're never persuasive when you're abrasive. You don't get your point across by being cross. You hear what I'm saying? You've got to stop fixing the blame in order to start fixing the problem. Stop blaming everybody else. One of the greatest leadership books I've ever read is called Extreme Ownership. I think I've mentioned it before. Extreme Ownership. The author is Jocko Willink. Retired Navy SEAL commander, and now he's got an organization called Echelon Front where they do corporate trainings. He's got several books. Extreme ownership. In other words, you own everything in your world. You don't blame anybody. And he's talking to leaders, like if you have somebody that fails at their job, don't blame them, blame yourself. Start asking yourself questions. Did I give them the resources they need? Did I give them the proper training? Did I explain exactly what needed to be done? Was I there when they needed it? But we have a tendency to blame everybody else except for ourselves. We need to take ownership. And in any relationship, we need to take ownership. Say, hey, what did I do? Is there anything I can do better? Instead of pointing my fingers and saying, you know what? It's my wife's fault. She messed up the roast today. She made me upset. So, simple example, but people get upset about crazy things. There's I don't think I put it on your paper. There's 7 rules for fighting fair in a relationship. Number 1, never compare. Don't compare. Never condemn. Don't condemn a person. Don't command. Never command. Never command. Don't, you better do. You better not tell me that. That's one thing I cannot stand. I can't stand to be pushed. My kids are the same way. Don't push them. It's just, don't command. Never challenge. Don't condescend. Don't belittle. Don't try to play psychologist. Never contradict. And never confuse. 7 rules. If you follow these, you'll be attacking the person, not the problem. You've got to attack the problem. If there's a conflict going on, find out what is the problem. What is the problem? They may be seeing it from a different perspective than you are. And find out, hey, what's going on? What's this deal between us? Have you ever thought something negative about somebody and come to find out it's not true? Because of what you heard, what you saw, how you felt. I talk about the old thing that, you see people in the corner laughing and you think they're laughing at you. You ever been there? Oh, they're talking about me. No, they're not. They don't even know you're there. But you start feeling some kind of weird way. Our mind plays tricks on us. So we attack the problem, not the person. Don't attack the person, no. Letter C. I better hurry. Letter C. Cooperate as much as possible. Compromise is essentially in every human relationship. We have to learn to compromise. If you're in a relationship, you've got to learn to compromise. I do it all the time with my wife. We have a rule in our house. When we remodel, decorate, whatever, I got 2 questions. What do you want and where you want it? Then I'll let her. It's just the way our relationship works. I'll build anything, make anything, do whatever you want. You just tell me what you want. Do you have something?
My dad wanted the best fishing boat, my mom wanted a pontoon. They bought a pontoon. They named it the U.S.
Yeah.
Compromise.
Yeah. You know what? A lot of these things, if you're in a relationship looking to get married, guess what? There's a lot of things you need to work out ahead before you get married. We kind of talked about, we hit on finances a little bit last week. So our number 1 reason of divorce is finances. You better figure it out. Because it will cause a lot of stress. If one person's a spender, one's a saver, guess what? It'll cause stress. It'll cause a lot of stress. You better figure it out. And I mentioned last week, Rick came to me during our Christmas downstairs, and I've been thinking about it, but I was like, do I really want it? But he confirmed what I was feeling. He said, hey, have you ever thought about doing a financial class? I'm like, the way it happened was just confirmation in the spirit. So I'll probably, when these lessons, I'll probably do a personal finance class according to the Word of God. The Bible gives us a lot about personal finances. But in marriage, this is one of the things you need to learn to compromise on. I got a serious problem. I'm getting off script. Well, it's my money. If you're married, it ain't your money. It's our money. God's money first, then our money. I don't have a separate bank account for my wife. We have one bank account, we have one savings account. And we share it. We both know what we're weird, we're a little geeky, okay? We use QuickBooks for our personal finances. But we both know exactly what comes and goes. And we're free to buy, whatever. But if there's a certain limit, I'll run it by her and say, hey, I'm not going to go out and buy a brand new table saw without running by her first. It's just respect. But we learn to compromise. We learn to, and you have to learn that in relationships. I'm getting way off base. I could be here for 5 hours. I don't want to do that. Compromise. Romans 12:18. If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. Guess what? Sometimes you just gotta let the other person have a win. You gotta let the other person make the decision. I've learned to do that. I do it at work. Say, when something needs to get, what do you think? They might have an idea. It may not be the way I want to do it, but you know what? Go ahead and do it. Run with it. If you need anything, let me know. You got to learn it, because I can sit there and I can be, I'm the boss. What I say goes. I've had those kind of bosses, and I hated every minute of life. So what? It may not be the way I wanted it. I thought that should be done, but a lot of times I found out that their way was actually better than what I was thinking when it was done. Live peacefully. James 3:17. The wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure. It also peace-loving, gentle at all times, and willing to yield to others. It is full of mercy and good deeds. It shows no partiality and always sincere. A lot of marriages die from inflexibility. Inflexibility. One person not willing to flex for the other person. There was a psychologist, Dr. Paul Toner. He said, so-called incompatibility is a myth, invented by jurists in order to plead for divorce. It is likewise just a common excuse people make and use just to hide their own feelings. Misunderstandings and mistakes can be corrected where there is willingness to do so. The problem is a lack of complete frankness. But they lump it up, hey, we're just incompatible. No, you're not willing to compromise in some areas. There's some areas you cannot compromise in. But a lot of areas of relationships, your marriage, your partnership, your friendship is what you're willing to make of it. E, the last E there. Emphasize reconciliation, not resolution. Reconciliation means to restore the relationship. Resolution means to resolve every issue. Guess what? You're not going to resolve every issue every time. You can disagree without being disagreeable. You ever got in a conversation with a friend, like, let's just agree to disagree. I got a lot of friends who are totally on the opposite end of the political spectrum than I am. And sometimes we have discussions. Sometimes I'll bring up things just to stir the pot. Because we do it out of fun. But we're friends. We get along. So why would we don't agree on everything? Guess what? Regardless of what modern society tells you can disagree and still be friends. I don't have to agree with everybody all the time. I heard this say, when two people agree on everything, one of them isn't necessary. If we all right here today agreed on everything, on the same exact thing on everything, what are we doing? In courtship, opposites usually attract. Opposites usually attract. However, once they're married, the opposites attack. Usually the way it happens. It becomes a conflict. So you have to get back on track by emphasizing reconciliation rather than resolution. 2 Corinthians, and I'll hurry up here. 2 Corinthians 5:18, in all things of God which have reconciled us to himself by Jesus Christ and hath given us the ministry of reconciliation. Reconciliation is a synonym for being a peacemaker. When you attempt to be a peacemaker, you're doing the work of God. When you're restoring relationships, you're doing the work of God. That's why we're here, is to restore people to the rightful place. Not to solve all the problems. Not to condemn people. Not to attack people. There was an article in the Houston Chronicle that came out right after September 11th, the terrorist attacks. And it said that dismissal in divorce cases skyrocketed in the family law courts. The dismissals of the divorce cases skyrocketed. In numbers that nearly tripled before the tragedy. Clients contemplating divorce and those in the middle of one now say that they will try to patch things up. The trend seems likely a product of the general sense everywhere that people realize this could be it, or our lives may be changed forever, and the things we were worried about before this really weren't that important. We're talking about the tranquility of order. Peace is tranquility of order in the middle of chaos. And we are incapable of it within ourselves. You cannot produce the spirit of the peace without God's Spirit. Philippians 4:7, and the peace of God, which passes all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds. The peace of God. Tranquility in the midst of chaos is the spirit of peace. When everything's going crazy, you can still have peace. Amen. God bless you. I ran over a little bit. I got on some rabbit trails. And,